Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Of course, we are discussing all matters bar one racing Irish Laurels from Curaheen Park. We are down to the final six. We've seen some wonderful racing through this classic over recent weeks, and now we look forward to, well, the last 28 and a half seconds of pulsating racing action. It really is the biggest week of the year down in the Rebel County. I'm joined as always by the exiled dub Tommy Lyons, and we have a special guest this week because Barwon Racing, one of the best sponsors in the game, are now well and truly responsible for the Irish Laurels. And Kieran Burke is their sole representative today. Kieran, you are flying the flag for Barwon Racing, who, in fairness, are flying a flag themselves. Thank you for your sponsorship, and great to be involved in competitions like this, I'm sure.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much, guys. Looking forward to it's going to be a big weekend. I know I was looking at some videos. I didn't get down to Curaheen, unfortunately, for the semi-finals. I know we'll have representatives down there for the final, but looked to be a great buzz, great crowd down there as well, which was great to see as well. So obviously, we're only just coming off the back of the Barwon Racing Irish Spring Cup at Dundalk, and that was such a great occasion. I suppose we're 20 years involved with that competition now, and you can see it's gone from strength to strength. And we're a couple of years into our sponsorship now with Curaheen and the Laurels, and it's a competition as well. It's just getting stronger year by year. So it's great to be involved.
Yeah, it's been bubbling under the surface for a few weeks now, Tommy. It sort of came to a head on Saturday night. Obviously, we lost a couple of very big names. It was a shame to see the other Kobe going out, but it was something we sort of half suspected could happen, given the draw. Crafty Shavu drawn up as inside, but we still have a final where we have, the defending champion High Trend bidding to create a little bit of history. We have the likes of Crafty Shavu, and Oaks winner herself in the past, and of course, given her history of top class racing in the UK as well, it adds that little bit of spice. You have the likes of Romeo Taylor, who we've been talking about as a potential Laurels Greyhound since basically the start of his career around Clonmel. Always showed terrific early speed. And then you throw in the likes of Droopy's Polish, Seek the Kingdom, and Hazel Hill Bucko. Great stories involved with all of them. Droopy's Polish, very much a local based runner for Johnny Linehan. Owners based in Charleville. Of course, Lucy Roach with her first classic finalist in Trap 6. And Seek the Kingdom, well, Paul Hennessy has a long and rich history with the Laurels. So it's only fitting he has one in the final. It's a great final to look forward to, Tommy. He's very competitive. We said it last week. Curraheen is a place where you either hit it or you don't. You can go from hero to bust in a matter of half a second, and that happened for a couple of runners on Saturday night. But I think we're left with a very competitive final, and the trap draw will only add to it.
The trap draw. If you wanted to handpick a trap draw to make it as wide open as is possible, you couldn't have done it any better. If High Trend was in one, I would have said it was a certainty. Other people were saying if Crafty Shavu was in one, they would have said she was a certainty. Um, there were numerous ways of looking at it that you'd say, yeah, there's some great strong handle on it. I genuinely believe the hardest case to make is for Seek the Kingdom, right? But I actually genuinely believe he has a chance of winning this, and every single greyhound. I'd be, what I'm like, Ian. I'd say what I think about it the opposite. I'd say quite the opposite. Something's a certainty, or it's a two dog race, or whatever. This is as wide open a final as you could possibly imagine. And look at the two heat semi-finals, 28-41, 28-42. I mean, that tells you as much as you need to know, I think, about it.
Yeah, sometimes you can know too much about the dogs. You can see, you know the
Yeah.
form too well, and like you look at the bet and you think, ah, well, sure, Seek the Kingdom, Hazel Hill, Bucko have no chance. They're 16-1 with the sponsors. Crafty Shavu's
Mm.
11-10, 2-1 Taylor, but all of a sudden it's a different race. Kieran, like as the sponsors, you've been very quick to price it up all through the stake and straight in. Crafty Shavu 11-10. It's at that sort of situation where you go any bigger you'd back her, any shorter you'd like to be on your side of things, laying her. You could know your fate after 2 or 3 yards, but you've taken a fairly firm opinion.
Yeah, and to be fair, Crafty Shavu's been the favourite since the get go, and our traders I think were spot on with the Spring Cup as well. Broadstrand stayed a favourite from the get go, went on to win the competition, and it's been the same with Crafty Shavu. So the traders will be happy with that. I suppose their opinion has been proven to be correct so far. But you're speaking about Seek the Kingdom there. I think a really interesting dog at a price of 16-1, because you look at Seek the Kingdom, been a massive improver throughout the competition. I think Seek the Kingdom, you'll know this, beaten around 11 lengths in its first heat in the competition, and it's been a massive improver all the way through. So 16-1, it'll definitely have its supporters at each way.
I would say, Tommy, that's his ideal draw in trap three. You look at him the night he raced from one and took the flyer. He went straight to the middle of the track, So yeah, obviously he doesn't want to be flanked by the two flying early pacers, Romeo Taylor and Crafty Shavu, but I think it does give him the best opportunity to get involved.
It does, yeah. It does, but you know what Romeo Taylor does? He tends to miss the kick and show massive early pace, and that's a disaster for dogs that are half length in front of him out of traps. That's the
Yeah.
type of thing. And if Seek the Kingdom, I was chatting to Paul Hensey the other night, and he said he's the type of dog that when he does it right, he can be really, really good, but he doesn't always do it right early. And that's
Yeah.
what's been getting him in trouble. You don't get away with it around Curaheen Park. Like, as I said, of all the finalists, he's the one that's hardest to make a case for. But I won't fall down if he wins it. I think it is genuinely that wide open. He's capable of doing a clock that will probably win the final as well on Saturday night. So it's really competitive, and I will be tipping two outsiders in this at prices, because I think I when I saw the draw come out the other night, my first reaction was, well, there's definitely not an 11 to 10 chance or an even money chance in that final.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Seek the Kingdom is from a family who's had classic finalists before. Of course, Hello Hammond was an English Derby finalist. What a star he was for the Hennessy Kennel. You have the likes of Ballymac Run. Well, she's been there, done that. JT Pearl is actually a daughter of 010 out of Tullamac Java. Tullamac Java was a prolific dam, throwing many stars, including obviously JT Pearl, who herself could run a fair bit. Kieran, get back to you. Talk us through the betting from top to bottom. We have Crafty Shoe 11 to 10. Talk us through the rest of them there.
Yeah, Romeo Taylor currently 2-1, 6-1 Droopy's Polish, High Trend 13-2, and then 16s apiece, Seek the Kingdom and Hazel Hill Buckle.
And is there any real liabilities to this stage that you're really worrying about, or have you got a clean slate sort of going into the final where you can
Crafty
take it on?
Crafty Shavu has been very well backed throughout the competition.
Yeah, and you can understand that. I would suggest probably a little bit of that is from the UK as well.
I was just going to say that as well. I think there's been, you said it there, as a bit of added spice, bit of added intrigue. We definitely have seen some interest in this dog from UK punters as well. So it again, it adds extra eyes to the competition, which is great. I know the finals going to be live on Virgin Media as well, which is a great boost for everyone. So yeah, there'll be a lot of UK supporters for Crafty Shavu on the night as well.
Certainly will. Let's talk about the two semi-finals and to give ourselves a sort of the best guide to maybe then making a prediction a little bit later on. The opening heat saw Crafty Shabu emerge triumphant from Hazel Hill Bucko and High Trend. Going into the corner, to be honest, anything could have happened, Kieran. This was true greyhound racing into the opening bend. It was all very tight, but you could just see that Crafty Shabu was getting up the inside of the other Kobe. More importantly, Faye Point Harvey in trap one didn't get the kick, and it sort of left that little bit of extra room for Crafty Shabu. She kept her true racing line, and she slipped around in front. In contrast, the other Kobe got badly involved with, Faye Point Harvey checked off, clipped his heels, and all of a sudden Tinahu Papone was involved in that. And suddenly it was 2-5 or 2-6-5 into the back straight. And that's how it remained. Hazel Hill Bucko going around second and High Trend going around third, and never altered thereafter.
Yeah, I'd love to get your opinions on it. You're talking about the draw for the final. A lot of people have said High Trend in five, that's a big negative. What would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, well, I know we'd have painted one or two on his back. That's the way it goes with him. Like, five is the issue, and you could see him, Tommy, sort of edging in on that opening corner. I'm not saying causing the problem, but adding to the problems.
He doesn't dive in on the run up. He waits till the corner, which is a degree of a help, obviously, to Crafty Shavu in four. Yeah, I watched him quite a few times. He ran a remarkable race to qualify. Now the key is he didn't break as well as he did the previous week when he did a 3:23 and comfortably led the other Kobe. He didn't break like that the other night out of five. Um, he's been beset by bad draws. It's a remarkable performance even to get to a final, but the way the draw has worked out for him right throughout the competition. I actually thought that the quarter-final performance was good enough to win the Laurels if he got the right draw in the final. I know he was beaten by the other Kobe that night, but just the way he got out, he lost a couple of lengths on the bend for I don't know, or a length maybe on the bend, which I couldn't understand. We talked about it at the time. He's just not. I've watched it so many times at this stage. He's just not a dive left dog. He's just not a dive left out of the trap dog. He's far too clever a tracker for that. If he does a 3:23, there's a possibility that he'll lead around. I wouldn't be backing him, and I think he's got a poor draw yet again. But the heart he showed in the quarterfinal and in the semi final to qualify, I mean, I don't know how he made it through, to be quite honest about it. But he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to impact unless Crafty Shavu misses it. He's not really going to impact her, I don't think.
No, you'd imagine she'll be holding her position into the opening corner, and as you said,
Yeah,
he's sort of disputing fourth into the corner the other night. He's easing in on the bend, no question about it.
It's on the bend, yeah. It's on the
Yeah,
bend though.
but he rode a couple of bumps very, very well, and that was the sort of key. As a result of him edging in, the Hazel Hill Bucko dog got a lovely clean run around the outside, and he turns in second. And what a story that is for Lucy Roach, Tommy.
Yeah, Hazelton Booker Dog ran. I don't think people might have spotted this. Maybe that's a bit conceited to say something like ridiculous like that. But the pace he was showing into the bend, when you consider what dogs were in front of him, what greyhounds were in front of him going out of traps, right? He missed it completely. The pace he showed into the bend and the way he tracked to get around the bend, he has a chance in the final. You know that?
He does have a squeak, no question about it. We saw glimpses of that during the Ledger campaign. There was one night, was it the quarterfinals of the Ledger that he got loose? He ran a remarkable race that night. Wins in 29.65. He went out. Where did he go out? He went out in semis. Yeah, it was the quarterfinals that he won so well that night in 29.65. And again, the key to success was the trap six draw. You've put him in at 16-1, Kieran. Like you know. It's big enough. Like it's big enough. He's not what you'd call a true 16-1 chance. Like this is a dog that could get involved from the outside, the sole seeded runner on the outside.
Yeah, I think agreeing with you again, as you've said, there's two dogs in there, 11-10, 2-1, but it really does look a wide open final, and there's so many different variables. There's, as you said, some runners in there that may miss the kick, and some that maybe aren't drawn in favorable boxes. So there's so many different variables that I think we're all heading to Curaheen on Saturday, not really knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. And Curaheen Park has a habit of throwing up some strange results. Let's move on to the second semi-final. Just once again there, Crafty should be beating Hazel Hill Bucko and High Trend. 3 lengths, 2 lengths, and 28.42. The sectional for Crafty should to the third bend was 16-13. Although at this stage in the competition, there was very little between that one and Romeo Taylor, the second heat winner. It's immaterial at this point in proceedings. You're there. That's the main thing. Romeo Taylor won the second heat, and this was probably decided into the opening corner. Tommy Road Exile missed a kick from the outside, and that sort of paid price to him now. And in contrast, Romeo Taylor, he's not a flying starter, as you said, but he paces up very well. From the very start of his career, he's always shown this terrific early speed, and he used it to great effect. I said the other day, last week, that I thought 5 and 6 would be the two into the corner. That for as good as the likes of Polish, Seek the Kingdom, Ballycown Bell are into the opening bend and consistently good. Romeo Taylor has the real pure early speed, and while he didn't hit the lids, his pace into the bend was there for all to see.
His pace was there for all to see, but he didn't break again, and that is key. And that's extremely important for the final. And the two things we need to know, we need to think about for the final: will he break? Which we don't know if he does. That's all. Even in sprinting, that's kind of been his issue. He's not a flying starter every week. He can do it. He's done big sectionals in Dundalk. He's done fast times in Dundalk. He can break, but he doesn't always break. He kind of relies on showing that pace into the bend. From two, what will he do? Will he go in? I don't think so. Will he edge off a little bit? Maybe he might. And if he does do that, he'll leave a gap for Droopy's Polish. If you watch it again, Droopy's Polish actually broke in front in that heat again the other night. I think she took a bit of a tumble here before the Laurels. And I think that's just kind of playing on her mind a small bit. And she's minding herself and there's a bit of a crowd around her. But if he happens to miss it slightly Saturday night, it comes off a little bit and leaves her space on the inside. She showed remarkable pace to get to within 2 lengths of him the other night. Considering she probably lost 4 or 5 lengths in running, she broke best, got a bump from the one dog early, dropped back, was back maybe 5 or 6 lengths. Looked like she was going to go for an inside run with 4 dogs in front of her, 3 of them right in front of her. She looked like she was going to go for an inside run.
She checked off in the opening corner.
She did.
That was the reason why she lost the 3 or 4 lengths of
No,
course.
she got a bump early as well, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said she's minding herself a little bit just because of what happened previously. But she at the third bench she looked like she was going to go inside at one stage, but she actually drove around them and showed remarkable pace. I mean, I've been talking about her for a few weeks now, saying I think she's getting stronger with each run. And I think that was the pure evidence of it there. I mean, had she got a clear run the other night, that would have been a 28-15 or run from her. She got that enough trouble. And actually, the draw. I don't know. Look at will she love trap one? She should. Will she break from it? She will. Can she get around in front? I'm not sure. But I tell you what, the way the race could pan out, if the two dog Romeo Taylor misses and shows his customary pace up into the bend, I mean he's shown as much pace as any dog in the final, more maybe into the bend. If he does that, there's a chance that he's going to hold up the ones on the outside and let her slip around inside. She's stronger than him. Like we
Yeah.
said about Romeo Taylor is he's a dog that just gets 5-2-5. just gets it. And when he misses the kick, he tends to show that pace, and then it tells close home. She made significant ground on him from halfway. If you watch the heat again, she's a player in the final, a definite player in the final.
She's definitely been given the draw that gives her the best chance of winning, Kieran. And I suppose that's the key to it. Like we're doing a lot of talking about the dogs at the bigger prices here, but I think that's purposeful. Like we can see a situation where any one of these six dogs wins, and I suppose from a bookmaking point of view, that's what you want.
Yeah, I suppose it is what we want. The more unpredictable it is, I suppose the better from maybe a results perspective. You're going to have a good spread across all six finalists. So, yeah, it's a really exciting final. You spoke earlier about, I suppose, our ability to price up the heats and the finals quite quickly throughout the competition. We've had so many greyhounds go from the Spring Cup into this competition. The likes of Romeo Taylor was a semi-finalist in the Spring Cup and is now a finalist in the Laurels. So I suppose we've followed these greyhounds now for the last couple of months as well. It's made it that bit easier from a trading perspective. But we've got to this situation now in the final where, yes, we have an 11-10 favourite in there in Crafty Shabu, but this certainly has a more open look to it than the Spring Cup final did.
Yeah, it certainly does. Romeo Taylor does a 16-16 to the third bend, 28-41. Remarkably, he's actually faster from the third bend home than Grapty Chavu. Is that not a touch surprising to you, Tommy?
It is, yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But what would Droopy's Polish have done from the same sectional?
You'd
She's
imagine she
definitely
was
catching
she was
lengths on them.
she was certainly 3 or 4 lengths faster from that point. You
Mhm.
imagine. Yeah, she finds herself 6 or 8 lengths behind. At one point, she's only beaten two. I agree with you. She's obviously just coming into herself. She's absolutely flying. She's bred in the purple, obviously, And Johnny Linden has a habit of doing this with a couple of bitches. Like he had that bitch last year in the Juvenile Derby final. She finished third, and this is a similar type lady. She's only once ever been out of Curaheen Park, and sort of that experience is really standing to her. She has a 28-25 honor card at Curaheen, but one suspects now that was back at the 17th of August. One suspects that here we are, nearly 6 weeks later, that she could certainly go faster than that with the clear passage. I agree with you, Tommy. She certainly lost 5 lengths in running the other evening, and that puts her at a 28-20 straight away. And with the draw and everything in her favor, 6-1 with yourselves, Kieran. I just wouldn't be surprised if we got a few nibbles from down south.
Yeah, no surprises at all. Obviously, it was there was a great core contingent at the Spring Cup final a few weeks ago for Broadstrand Stadium, and they really made a great noise on the evening. They really added to the colour and the atmosphere around the place. So we know they're very, very passionate down that part of the world. So I'd imagine there will be a flood of support for that one. All right.
They certainly are. We don't want to sleep on Sleep the Kingdom, Tommy. You've mentioned it
No,
already. He got badly squeezed into the opening corner, had to check his stride, lost momentum. He finds himself fourth into the back straight. And while Droopy's Polish is making up the ground, or is it Polish or Polish? Polish. We'll say Polish. When Droopy's Polish is making up the ground is the third bend, he just finds himself stuck in a pocket behind trap one. When he's trying to make his move, he was held up by the one dog, which is our bitch, Ballycown Bell. And, it could have easily been him that was beaten 2 lengths rather than Droopy's Polish, and that's worth keeping in mind. Yes, his draw isn't as favourable in the final, but as you said, Tommy, produced on the big night, 16-1, big price.
like is there ever a night you're going to say at this level of competition that he has a great draw? I mean, he's the type of dog that's not hasn't got the early pace to kind of to kick himself out of trouble early. So he's always going to have to kind of track a little bit. You're right. Like going down to the third bend, he was just there, looking, where do I go? How do I get around these two in front of me? And just couldn't do it. And he ran on. He ran on with real purpose as well. I think it just that what that he should highlight to us is how open it is. Even though Romeo Taylor, and again, early pace wins races. Romeo Taylor is deservedly ahead of both of those in the market for the final. But it's just that tight. See, the Kingdom is a very fast dog. I honestly, and I very seldom say it, but I honestly believe that there's no result whatsoever will surprise me Saturday night.
No, no, I think we know enough about the very nature of the Laurels, the Curaheen Park. It's what a speed test it is. That just that little sort of half second, sort of sleepiness is the wrong term, but if you just miss it by half a beat, you could be goosed, and
I
the
like
race can change in a heartbeat.
I'm genuinely extremely conscious of the pace that Hazel Hill Booker showed the other night to the bend and the way it tracked. And if it could break level, and I know it's difficult, and we talked about Trap Six and Tribal City and Hazel Hill Booker will tell you that the fact that there were only two wide seats in the entire competition at the start will tell you, it's not favoured around Curaheen Park. To get Hazelhead Bucker to a final is testament to the Roaches and to the dog itself. But I just the more I watch that heat, the more it catches my eye that this Hazelhead Bucker showing pace in the bend. I know it could be the exact same on if it's the exact same on Saturday night, Hazelhead Bucker won't win the final. If it breaks the same way as it did in semi final, it will not win the final. But it can break. Dog can break. And I tell you, when you consider what dogs were in front of going into the bend, and the fact that you got High Trend who will at the bend, okay, it'll be at the bend, it won't be early. High Trend will be moving across. I mean, the gap is going to be there for Hazel Bucko. If Hazel Bucko could break pretty much level and be a length behind at the first bend, the way he drives the first bend, he puts himself in a chance of winning the race.
Yeah, he does. He does. You spoke about last week, and Jimmy Barry was very strong in what he says. That the Cork contingent, and you said it as well, that they do get in behind. What have you a suspicion what they'll get in behind on Saturday night?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because the only two greyhounds that they talk about having been backed, and this isn't kind of after time and after the semi final, but they've been saying it for a few weeks. The two greyhounds that they backed at the start were Romeo Taylor and Crafty Chavou. They were the two that they backed at the start of the competition. So they're still there. Look at this is a kind of a funny one. If you backed any of the six of the Manti post, you'd be making a strong case for the one you're on because you can do that because it's that type of race. Um, so some will be saying, "Oh, Romeo Taylor will have too much early pace for those around to seek the kingdom beside it is ideal, and Droopy's Polish in one is ideal because she tended to pull back off them a little bit early and give Romeo Taylor the inside of the track. But if Romeo Taylor misses the kick like he can do, and Crafty Chavou goes up to the bend side by side with High Trend, and High Trend forces her in a bit, um, you've got all sorts of possibilities of what can happen. Like they I think they're more likely to. I think they're more likely to go for just because of the last number. I think they're more likely to go for Crafty Chavou in terms of punting on Saturday night, and I think at even money or 11 to 10, she's too short.
Yeah. Kieran, I just want to ask you, are you more or less confused than you were before the race, before listening to us for the last 10 minutes?
There's definitely more to consider. All right, we'll definitely be having a look at these prices again this morning, I think.
The main thing is you're open for business and you were willing to take on these dogs at the various prices. I'll suggest there will be plenty of movement in the coming days.
Yeah, I won't be at all surprised. Look, Barney O'Hare here, he's a real sporting man, as everyone knows. He loves his greyhound racing and his horse racing. We've recently had the sponsorship there, the Flying Five at the Curragh that last weekend, and as I said, the Spring Cup and the Laurels now over the last couple of years. So our sponsorship portfolio is really expanding, but they're sometimes you see sponsors and they get involved with things and they don't get that involved. But Barney really gets behind the competitions that he's sponsoring because he has a genuine passion and interest in them. So he's not afraid to take a bet on these sort of competitions. So it's going to be a very interesting week for the traders next door to us here, I think.
He did have a touch pained expression on his face when Broadstrand Sid won the Irish Sprint Cup. Now it must be said, and the prospect of potentially paying out a 10 grand bonus was also there. But sadly, Broadstrand Sid picked up a little niggle before the Laurels didn't take his place because if he had, he'd have been a big player in it. But you know the question we're going to ask you now, Kieran. You're going to have to put your finger on one. What do you think will win the Laurels on Saturday night?
I'll stick with the traders. They've been right the whole way through in the Spring Cup, and they've been right so far. I'll stick with Crafty Chavou.
It's amazing how often they stand behind their traders, Tommy. Isn't it? The traders are
Oh,
carrying a lot. The traders are carrying a lot of weight. They're carrying 12 stone two now in heavy ground over 3.5 miles, aren't they?
They sure are. Look at it's like you've been saying about it. There has been great sponsorship from Barney O'Hare, and maybe long may it continue. I think they were rewarded with a brilliant sprint cup. I think it was the deepest sprint cup I've ever seen in terms of overall quality. Not just the fact that Broadstrand Sid was doing the clocking on debut and whatever else over sprint distance, but also they've now been rewarded with the most competitive final I can imagine. In I know there's an 11 to 10 favorite, but I think it's more competitive than that. And hopefully they'll be busy during the week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kieran, sticking with Crafty Giroux, Tommy, you suggest that you were going to be Dutching
Yeah, top and bottom.
top and
I have
bottom,
to.
the
I have to at the
bookends.
prices. I have to at the
Yeah,
prices. Yeah.
I have to tell you that doesn't really come as a major surprise to me, given what I've heard for the last 15 minutes. You've almost convinced me to Dutch the pair of them as well. Uh, I think I'd
Yeah.
like to be taking on Crafty Shabu at 11 to 10. I'm not sure where I'd like to be sort of getting involved. Maybe sort of 13 to 8, I think, is more sort of where I'd be at. With Crafty Shavu, I think she's going to need to do everything right in those first 5 strides. But you know, this is one of those races where after 5 strides she could be 3-1 on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, no, I tell you what,
Once
she can't be
Romeo
three.
Taylor isn't a half length
She
behind
can't,
her.
she can't, she can't be 3-1 on till she gets around that bend because Romeo Taylor's pace into the bend. Now we didn't really talk about the heats that much, but just to say that she was remarkably tough going into the first bend. The other Kobe broke ahead in front of her. I had a great angle from the stands where I was in the stands. Romeo Taylor, or sorry, the other Kobe broke ahead in front of her and couldn't get an inch out of her all the way to the bend. And in fact, just as they were approaching the bend, he kind of resigned himself to the fact that he couldn't get the better of her going into the bend. She drove around. I know the sectionals weren't fast. There was nothing lightning about the sections in either heats the other night, but her determination was
It was
impressive.
it,
It
it was
really was.
hugely competitive going into that corner. You know,
It
Tinaho
was,
Papone was edging in on the other Kobe. High Trend was then starting to cut in,
yeah,
as you say, on the bend.
yeah,
It was so tight. Like it was one of those situations where any of the six could have been left in front off the second bend. You know the way it was, but you said it there. Her toughness and her, I suppose, at this
yeah.
stage, her experience got around that corner. There's something very, very classy about her, and she
Well,
does have a will to win as well as the ability to beat the best in training, and that hasn't been forgotten. I know we both wouldn't like to be backing her 11-10. At the same time, we wouldn't like to be laying her at 2-1.
well, like she's prolific and she's been running at the top level for so long. She won an Irish Oak. She went over to England. I'd say she got beaten maybe 4 times while she was over there. She seemed to win. Did she win the Duchess Cup or something like that? She won. She
The
won
Empress Stakes, isn't it?
Empress Day, something close enough. She's top class and she's so consistent that she won't be beaten for lack of effort or determination. Anyway, I just I'm just not mad about the draw.
Yeah, yeah. Well, bar one now, they're bracing themselves for impact. They've already laid her. She's already a liability, so they'll be taking on probably Romeo Taylor in the coming days as well. Kieran, of course, on the night there'll be 3 or 4 races televised with Virgin Media. It's great coverage. It's great to have it, but also I'm sure it'll give your traders a little bit more work to do as well. You'll be pricing up the remaining races on the card when the card is finally announced later in the week.
Yeah, throughout the competition, we've had all the individual heats priced, so no different for the final. And as you said, with the live TV coverage, there should be a lot of action. So we're delighted with that.
Yeah, we won't be able to interview you though. You're not going to be there. You're
Unfortunately,
commenting. You're
not. No.
commentating on volleyball. Is that what you said to me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a jack of all trades, so do a bit of football, volleyball, throw my hand at anything really.
Listen, keep it up, keep it up. The feature race on the undercard will be the final of the Bart Leahy Memorial, €10,000 to the winner. Two wonderful heat winners in Dynamic Force and Croker Sydney. Both dogs actually took their place in the Barwon Racing Irish Sprint Cup. Dynamic Force was a dog that Tommy caught on to early on, showed loads of pace. But Tommy, from a dog that's coming from a sprinting background, he's winning like a Derby type greyhound in the Laurels type surroundings. He looks stronger than we sort of probably thought he was during the Irish Sprint Cup, certainly than I thought, having seen his debut at Shelbourne Park. He got loose on that occasion and faded home badly, but he's looking every bit of sort of Derby type greyhound. He is terrific pace, 28:35 the other night, faster than both semi-finals of the Laurels.
Yeah, he's in superb form. He would have been my idea of one of the best for the Laurels had he gone that direction. Had he gone this direction, maybe connections are completely right. I think it's a no-brainer if you're still an A3 dog coming out of Dundalk that you go for an A2 stake that's worth 10,000 rather than taking on the Laurels. Um, I think they've done the right thing with the dog. I spoke to Paul Hensey the other night. He really, really, really likes this dog. And you know what Paul is like. He's not going to tell you, I think it'll win
Yeah,
Saturday night. You know what he's like. He understands greyhound racing he's been at it long enough. Anything can happen Saturday night. The dog can get beaten. And whether that happens or not, just get the impression he really likes it as a potential English Derby dog for next year. That I
yeah.
think is what's in his mind more than anything else. I don't think, looking at the Irish Derby this year, it might go that way. But I just think that he thinks there's plenty of development left in this dog. He's only in August 22. Um, he's still learning his game. I think I'm a little bit surprised, and that he's not breaking better and turning closer and getting around in front even in a lot of these heats. I mean, it's only an A2 competition in name, really. Let's be honest about it.
Horse it is, yeah.
Um, yeah, but think that'll change. I think that'll change, and it might just be the track. Maybe he just, he's a wide seed. Trap six is really difficult around Curaheen Park. He's been in it. Has he been in it every week of the competition so far? I think we'll see an even better dog when he comes out of Curaheen Park. He's going to take a bit of beating in the final, but Battling Yank is a good dog. 4 runs only. Just didn't, just didn't run the first bend brilliantly the other night when he went out in front. He left the gap up on the inside at the third bend where Dynamic Force went inside at the third bend, and that was the win of the race. Battling Yank is a dog that's going to improve enough to be.
Big
Well,
player.
he's obviously a massive player in that final Saturday night. I mean, he's probably going to get first run, and he's the right side of Arclight Pilot, who flew at well. As long as Arclight Pilot doesn't turn left out of trap, Arclight Pilot flew out of trap one the other night and led a long way. But I think Battling Yank is the likely leader to me, and that makes him a real player.
Yeah, Dynamic Fair is probably a name that jumps out at you, Kieran, given the runs he produced in the Irish Sprint Cup. I would assume that your traders, when they price this up later in the week, will be having Dynamic Force in pretty short.
Yeah, I think that'll be the case. All right.
Yeah, he's a fast greyhound, no question about it. Battling Yank was second. Our dog Molly was back in third. The second heat, it was won by Croker Sydney. Tommy, if you told me that Croker Sydney would not lead until nearly the third bend and still go on to win, I would have given you probably a slap around the head and told you to cop yourself on. He's a dog that the world tried to buy after his debut at Shelbourne Park. He actually didn't even finish that race. I think he cramped up and just stopped to a walk. He cramped and seemed like the world wanted to buy him. He had, I think he did 15.90 something to the third bend. He absolutely flew to the third bend that occasion, and then just took him a while to get going. And he's had 2 or 3 new trainers. John Croker decided to hold on to the dog. He didn't want to sell, and I'm telling you, he was offered all sorts of money. He's some cracking sprint form in terms of trials. 1865 won a second race in Shelbourne, 1879. Then went to the Irish Sprint Cup as like a raw novice. Like he really had little chance. But like to finish only less than 4 lengths behind Trinity Junior and Broadstrand Sid the night he got knocked out tells you that he always had a bit of ability. And this down to Curaheen Park, back to 525 yards. He was beaten second in the first 2 rounds, but the other evening got up to win by a half length, or sort of got up and then held on to win by a half length. I still think there's a world of improvement in this fellow, and if he does hit the lids, he could be a big player. Arclight Pilot was second spot. That was rallying to the cause, having shown terrific early speed into the opening corner. Sectional wouldn't suggest it was terrific early speed, but to the eye it looked very good. And I know you want to give Smiling Jack a good mention back in third.
Yeah, Smiling Jack ran a cracking race. I'm not sure how he held his line into the first bend, but he was real determined. Dealing among greyhounds, there were about 4 of them there, and anything could have happened. You just love the way he tracked. Look, he's going to be one of the outsiders in the final. Final, but I tell you, for the Withers family, he's a runner. He has trap one as well. It'll just be interesting to see what he can do early, because this is a race with specialist early pace in it. This final, this is actually, do you know what? It's funny to say it, and if you'd asked me, was I going to be saying this at the start of the competition? But the fact that there's so much early pace in it might actually suit Dynamic Force. It might just get them out in front and give him something to kind of aim at, because he's a clever tracker. I mean, he's a wide seed, but he went inside at the third bend when the gap appeared in the semi-finals, and he's well capable of going around the outside if need be. So, look, it's a cracking race. I'd love to see Smiling Jack for Derry Withers to run really well. Our dog Molly there for Tom O'Neill, great character. I mean, it's a really good final. I think Dynamic Force is the deserving favourite. I don't think he's a
Yeah.
certainty.
Yeah, no, I think he is a deserving favourite. But as you say, it is Curraheen Park, and there's plenty of talent in there. Like even the likes of Smiling Jack, as you said, he's just improved and improved and improved. Like he was A6 only a matter a couple of months ago, like, and here he is now. And he had touched an A1, and he just got the right result the week before this competition to allow him run in this competition. But that's the
Yeah.
that's the key. It's like handicapping in horse racing. Kieran, it's a great night down at Curraheen Park. It's sad that you won't be there, but I'm sure you'll put in your bucket list for next year. Make sure you're there at Laurels final night. Loads to look forward to. You're very much open for business, and you'll be pricing
Yeah.
up plenty of races, I'm sure, over the week.
Yeah, from my own point of view, I'll have the feet up now on Saturday night after the volleyball, and I'll have it on the telly. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a shame I can't get down, because I have to say I would have loved to have met Jimmy Barry as well. What an absolute sporting legend. We've got some big GA men here in the office now. I'm more of an association football man. I'd love to speak to Jimmy about his time playing with Cork Celtic back in the day. But look, that'll come another day, I'm sure. But it's great to be involved with a competition that's supported by such a sporting legend as well. So aside from that, yeah, we're very much open for business. We'll take a bet here at Barwon Racing. So that's what we're all about. As I said, Barney's a real sporting man, so he won't shy away. So yeah, make sure you check us out for the final this weekend.
Well, Kieran, best of luck. Thank you again for your continuous sponsorship. We'll definitely catch up with Barney on Saturday night, but you won't be there. But we'll see you again in the very near future. Again, Kieran, thanks very much. We know you have to jet off. You have to study up your is it Serbian basketball or volleyball or where were you?
It's German, actually. German.
German. Listen,
Yeah.
German. That's fine. That's fine. Best of luck with that, Kieran, and we'll talk to you in the very near future.
Lads, thanks a million.
Well, Tommy, Kieran has to go off now and study his German volleyball. I don't know if you'll be doing the same a little bit later on, but we're going to continue on with our chat from Curaheen Park on Saturday night. Obviously, the Laurels always runs in conjunction with an open on race stake. And I think it's safe to say we might be hearing a bit more of a couple of these. The very well named Outstanding. He's a big unit. He's 84 pounds, but he happens to be a brother to a dog that got a couple of mentions, Broadstrand Sid. This was a very taking display. Big dog. You'd suspect there's more to come from him. 28:33, faster than the Bart Leahy Memorial semis, faster than the Laurel semi-finals on his racing debut. A lot to like about this fella.
Yeah, the 1744 was on the card already. The all the talk was about this greyhound. He was called Swords Dawn, I think, on Saturday night in commentary. Barbara Lowndes has bought him, I'm sure. He was certainly be called Sword Dawn, maybe. Um,
It hasn't got into the system yet. So I
Not in the
actually had
system.
I had something similar on Saturday night in Shelbourne. I
Mm.
got a change of name for a bitch in one of the semi-finals, and I said that's all well and good. I said, but it's on the card as that name, so I'm going to call it that name tonight. And when
That's
it's
the
on
way
the
I
card,
was on.
that's the way I do it. But the problem is when they change in the system, sometimes it comes up in your tote tickets or come in the tote screens as the new name and confuses people. So you have to
Okay.
announce it a few
Yeah, yeah.
times. But yeah, outstanding. So Barbara and Leonard have put the hand in the pocket and bought a greyhound who has clear ability. Actually, in the results, it probably is changing the system. In the results, when you click into outstanding, it comes to a 2002 greyhound,
And yes,
2002 bitch.
and yeah, and yes, if you the card for next week is up and Outstanding is still down as the name. I
Yeah.
tell you what I liked about the performance. Outstanding didn't fly out of traps. Showed a really nice turn of pace for an 84-pound dog. I know it's an August 22 and it's not an extremely young dog, but for an 84-pound dog to show a lovely bit of acceleration. I was impressed with it now, and actually kind of moved off a little bit at the bend. You kind of expect that from a dog that big that in his
Rather than move off, it seemed to be almost a wobble.
yeah
It was a
something there was
speed,
some
probably a speed wobble. You consider all its recent trial form, certainly public trial form, has been over two bends. So probably just
yeah
caught him unawares. Oh, here, the bend's here already.
yeah. So it just look there was. The point is, I thought there was plenty of room for improvement in the Greyhound. So, look, at he's going to be favoured. He's going to be favoured and probably a very short price. I mean, he was short the other night, but the locals who knew all about him were backing him at the time.
Yeah. You're not getting him was second, the 7-4 second favorite. Obviously, plenty of support for that. Also, back in third was Quivers Champers. Excuse me, Quivers Champers racing in the middle of the track there. Just looking at that for a second. Quivers Champers. Bear with me. I think if I go back far enough, I knew it. I knew it. If I went back far enough, it goes all the way back to Nariba and to Cruel Survivor on the damn
Right.
side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were only talking about the line the other night, actually. There's one or two sort of just appearing from the line. On to the other semi-final, won in another fine style, this time by Sing Along Rex. I think Pat may have mentioned this dog to me in the past. It was one that certainly slipped my mind. I think he said it to me about 3 or 4 months ago, but found himself sort of in the middle of them into the opening bend, quickened up in the last sort of 10, 15 strides into the corner to turn a close second. And once doing so, was just much the faster down the back straight, took it up into the third bend and races on to win in good style in 28:53. I would suggest looking at this run that there's far better to come from him. He's clearly very talented. The dog in second also made up plenty of ground. That was 5 Romeo Empire. So more firepower for Graham Holland. He's a February 23 whelp, bred in the purple, obviously enough. A Romeo Magico pup, actually interesting to see. But Sing Along Rex, Tommy, we'll start with him. Very impressive.
Yeah, I was impressed. It showed lovely pace down the back. As you said again, they were singing his name before the race and back them at short prices. Had a little bit of concern, or all right, that he had to come from behind to win it, but he showed a lot of pace. I thought the runner up Romeo Empire as well already looks natural for a bit further. Although I wouldn't like to pigeonhole him as a stayer after one race, but showed loads of pace in defeat. So it's actually going to be a good final. Outstanding will be favoured. but on the basis that he's likely to lead around and it'll take a fair performance to pick him up. But you've got a couple of they're obviously all unexposed, but you've got a couple of really exciting sorts in there. And it's always a hot competition, as you know.
Was that the competition won by Clonacurley last year?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's what it was. Yeah,
he
yeah,
was obviously in action in Perry Barron Saturday night. He pushed Drewby's Clue to the pin of his collar in the Ledger final over in the UK over 6 pens. We thought this time last year he was going to be a Derby type dog, but obviously he's really performing over 6 pens in the UK. So yeah, keep an eye on this final on Saturday night. Yeah, I was very taken by the dog in second. It must be said, the Romeo dog. Um, he runs. You said it last week, Tommy, about a dog of this nature. He runs bigger than his 77 pounds. And I think that's a good sign. Like if you looked at him from afar, just running off that final bend up the home straight, you think, God, there's a big 82 pounder, really flying. Like he just races a bit bigger than he actually is. He really gallops. Yeah, he's a fine one to look forward to. But Sing Along Rex is very talented also. That's a cracking final. Like that we shouldn't sleep on that final. That really could be like that could be absolutely stacked with future stars.
yeah. No, and it tends to be. And look at if an unraced stake in Curaheen Park isn't good, there's something wrong because
Yeah.
because there are enough young pups that are being we talked about last week that have been schooled around Curaheen Park. They know the track well. They like the track. The trainers like the track. They've plenty of experience here. If that isn't an unraced or an N1 unraced isn't going to attract really really good dogs, then we're not up to much.
Yeah, it is. It's worth pointing out that Swords Don is in the system. Outstanding will run as Swords Don on Saturday night, and Swords Rex, we only recently wrote about him. He has his first few litters on the ground. We've spoken about his pedigree back in the day. His dam line goes back to the Pat Dalton's breed. But, Barbara and Leonard aren't waiting for the first crop to come around. They've put their hands in their pockets again. Great supporters of the game, and always
Yeah.
good to see them with a good dog. They deserve to have a good dog because they put their hand in their pocket. And that's the one thing about it. They love to have a runner in Shelbourne Park, but I'm sure they wouldn't be too worried about having a runner in Curaheen Park on Saturday night either. Tommy, great excitement. I assume that part of the world, it's the biggest night of the year in the Rebel County in terms of greyhound racing.
Oh, it is, yeah, it is, and I think the Laurels is delivered every year. We look at every single competition at the start, and we say, "Oh, it's great competition," and we kind of half worry without saying it that, take away 3 or 4, and then they mightn't be there. That applies to every competition, not just the Laurels. But actually, it's produced what I think is a really good final. I love the fact that it's open. Like I do think that look, the bitches probably not the bitches, 2 bitches in the final. The that Crafty
Shavu.
Shavu was the most likely winner, but I can't be tipping her 11 to 10 even money. She's not that type of price. So, I mean, I'll be either, it'll be top or bottom for me that I'll end up tipping just because they are value and you can't be going for the obvious all the time. It's a cracking final, and I think there will be a big crowd. There was a huge crowd there for the semi-finals, and hopefully there'll be an even bigger crowd next Saturday night.
Absolutely. It is on terrestrial TV.
Yeah,
I
don't mind that.
can't remember a time when it was on terrestrial TV before. It was on obviously the satellite channels in recent years, but in
Yeah.
terms of terrestrial TV, I don't think I can ever remember a Laurels on it.
I have it in my head that it might have been, but I'm not. I head like a
Yeah,
sieve, Ian, head like a sieve.
yeah. Well, you've had like something else as well. Um,
Bowling ball, Ian, yeah.
I was going to
Go
say
on.
I was going to say a turnip, but no, bowling ball's fine. Um, listen, it's
Nice
great that
fella.
it is great that it's on television. What do we say, Tommy? Can't experience greyhound racing in its fullest unless you're on track. And it really
Yeah.
is well worth your while journeying to Curaheen Park on Saturday night. Of all the classic finals, it's the one that I've had the most. I've had the most fun at purely because I haven't generally been working, and I'm doing it as a jaunt and having a bit of crack with you. We've gone for a feed of beverages afterwards, and that may well again be the
Diet
case
Cokes.
Saturday night. But no, a great final to look forward to. It's always a very special occasion, and if it happened to be one of the Cork dogs or even the likes of Lucy Roach or something get around the corner in front, my God, there'd be some noise in the place.
Wouldn't it be great stories too?
Oh,
And I said that the two at the top of the market are the two that have been back so far, and they have been. Anybody who's been talking to me for the last few weeks about it saying they're on this or they're on one of the two, but they get behind Lucy Roach when the Laurels are obviously Johnny Linehan is a great character as well as a great trainer. I mean, he's seriously popular around Curraheen and
it's
for
it's
well
it is it
further
is
field
pretty
further.
it is pretty remiss of us. We haven't actually mentioned Pat Norris. Pat
Yeah.
Norris, one of the most famous names, certainly when I was growing up. When Pat Norris came to Dublin with a dog, my father always said, just keep an eye on this, will you? If there's any money, let me know, or, just keep an eye on it. Pat, like, you couldn't teach Pat Henton about greyhound racing. You know what I mean? He knows how
No,
to train a dog. Like, I remember one of my favorite dogs from my youth was Up the Junction to reach the English Derby final. I think he was behind Moral Standards in English Derby final. But that's how long Pat goes back and further. Um, for him to get this bitch back and within a week or two, she's running in the first round of the Laurels. To get her in the final of the Laurels, and she's now 11 to 10 favorite. I think it's real testament to his skill as a trainer. And here we are, just a matter of weeks later, and she's 11 to 10 favorite. And if she happened to produce a bigger run again in the final, I don't think we'd be surprised to anyone.
no, it wouldn't at all. It's a great sign of Pat Norris and that kennel, and also of the bitch, that you can. She had to settle in almost immediately.
Yeah.
It shows that she's gone into a good routine, and she's a bitch that's capable of doing that. But she's gone into a good routine that she enjoys, because she couldn't produce the run she has been for the last while. She's
Lest we
she'll
forget,
go to
lest we forget, she was retired for 24 hours.
24 hours. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Didn't suit her. Be like myself retiring.
She was obviously a bit edgy. She decided, to hell with it. Pat, give us a shot at the Laurels, will you? No, but fair play. The connections obviously paid good money for her. Not the good money it would have been a couple of weeks later if they'd waited to buy her, but they bought her for a decent sum. I remember saying to Peter Divley, what if you held on for a week or two? He said we'd have been charging an awful lot more. That's what he said to me. But no, she's very, very fast. She's a very talented bitch. And listen, she's certainly deserving of her place in the final. And while neither of us will be backing her at 11 to 10, it'd be no surprise if she flashed out and did 28 seconds on the bunny. That's given her level of ability, and the fact that she still probably has a bit of improvement in her, given the fact that she's probably only still settling in her new surroundings. But a great Laurels final to look forward to. Again, it's on terrestrial TV, but make sure you get to the track if you can. There's nothing like being there in person. Now, Tommy, we are going to talk about a different track. Shelbourne Park opened its doors on Thursday evening for the masses, and all by all accounts a really great reception to the place. The ground floor really does look resplendent, looks magnificent. Who was I talking to? I was talking to Richie O'Regan. He was up on Thursday, and he kept referencing John Fox. John Fox, the time nutrition man, arrived in through the doors with his partner and daughter, and he looked around, and you could almost see him like that. The sort of the mouth dropped, and it was like, wow, like this is our stadium. This is one of our stadia. It was greatly, greatly received, and by all accounts, I, I found myself the last 2 to 3 nights in Shelbourne. Obviously the novelty value is still there, but coming down after the last race and going, God, is there anyone to chat to? Just to hang around here and enjoy the experience. It's very much more like a venue underneath. It's like a place where you could actually sit down, have a drink and a chat after racing, and I would suggest that when the bar starts opening that little bit later, I would suggest you'll hold on to a fair bit of the crowd. People will hang around for a few more drinks before venturing forth. That's the beauty of greyhound racing. We get people during their peak spending hours before sending them elsewhere, and hopefully that will be the case, that they'll continue their peak spend at Shelbourne for an hour or two after racing. But there was also top class racing to look back on over the weekend. We'll touch on Friday night before we touch on Saturday night. Just some quality racing on the Friday night that I just want to mention. There was a final of a bitch 525 that went to Head in the Window. She took a flyer, made every inch of the running. Francie Murray had a good winner in the bet with a toed A3, no backgraders. That was worth 17.50 to the winner. A dog called Upfront Magic. He ran, or was it a he or she? I think it might have been a big bitch, actually. I could be wrong. No, big dog. A 72-pound dog, should I say? A fawn dog came through to land the spoils. And Bristow won for Liam and Debbie O'Rourke. It's great to see sort of real sort of Dublin connections landing one of the big prizes on Friday night, 2,250 for that. But there was also two semi-finals of a dual distance, won both by Robert Gleeson, Drubby's Metaphor, and Carrick Fergie. I'm not sure Drubby's Metaphor will be suited by the 550 final, but he'll certainly be in front, I'd imagine. Carrick Fergie, great to see him winning races again. Of course, he looked such a star in the making last year when he won the champion unraced at Kilkenny. It's had a stop-start career since then. And the final race, probably the best race we've seen on a Friday night at Shelbourne Park in a long, long time. I think there was one of the dogs, maybe I'm not sure if it was out of time or it was one of the connections couldn't come on the Saturday night, so they ran it on the Friday. And Carrick Aldo beat Phoenix Memphis, Clonbrine Treaty, Rambling Boy, Braymore Dyson, Wye Bonny Lad. Like that would have been a fitting race to end Saturday night on. In the end, Carrick Aldo produced a fine run from the front. Clonbrine Treaty really put it up to him into the third bend, but he found himself on the outside. And you're not going to get past Carrick Aldo at that point if you're not in front of him at the third bend. Phoenix Memphis ran a remarkable race in second, but I came down after the race thinking to myself, it'd be no surprise to me if the top three had a part to play in the derby. I thought Clonbrine Treaty ran very well on the outside, but Carrick Aldo, very impressive. Certainly Teddy Hegarty was impressed after racing as well, and he's not a bad judge. Good to see Carrick Aldo back to winning ways, back to himself, because there was no question he wasn't right at the back end of the Irish Sprint Cup.
Yeah, he couldn't have been. He showed a remarkable pace. He looked as good as ever at one point of the competition, and then he just didn't look quite himself in the semi final and final. No, he was going to run a good race in the final, to be honest about it, until he got the trouble. But it's great to see him back. Obviously, it's a shame for Curaheen Park that he didn't come down for another tilt at the Laurels. But you can understand the logic, what connections were doing with him. So, um, he's a smashing dog. Glenryan Street, he's been around. He feels like he's been around forever. He hasn't, but he feels like he's been around forever. And then Druby's Memphis dog. I don't know much about him. He's reasonably young, 2 and a quarter or something like that, and
Yeah.
entitled to be improving. I did like Carrick Aldo. I like the fact, even though Clonbrine Treaty he's probably better suited by 50, the 550, the longer run up and the whole lot, and get himself in position. He does a lot of his running by the third bend.
Yeah,
So,
but
um,
he's not going to be passing Carrick Aldo or 550 into the corner too often. An Irish Sprint Cup winner.
yeah, he needs to break. He needs to break,
Yeah.
which is what he tends not to do because his early pace is electric. He'd be a sprint cup dog if he could break.
Right. Let's get into Saturday night's action at Shelbourne Park because it was high quality from start to finish.
Yeah.
We'll start with the feature races. The feature was the final of the Paddy Merriman Memorial. We remember a great son of Shelbourne Park in Paddy Merriman. He produced many a champion. It was great to see Jerry with the winner earlier on the card, Highview Splash, returning after a bit of a layoff. Like he looked such a star at the back end of last year. He's been lightly raced this year, suggests there has been a few issues with him, but great to see him winning. He'll come on aside for that. But the final of the Paddy Merriman Memorial went to a young trainer called Michael O'Donovan. He's not bad with a dog. Full brother. Full brother to a certain Coulivanny Hoffa. In fact, as the hair come up to the traps, I called him Coulivanny Hoffa before having to correct myself.
Mhm.
Stone Park Hoffa. He gave his odds-on backers a bit of a fright. Missed the kick by his standards, but flew into the opening corner, took it up on the bend, and went on to hold Coulivanny Brave, who lived up to his name in second spot. But Stone Park Hoffa finding a way, Tommy. Lots to like about this fella.
It's like about him. As I said to you a few weeks ago, I thought it was my idea that with Laurels winner. I thought they'd go that direction.
Mm.
I thought when he didn't appear there, he'd appear in the Bartley Memorial. But I thought well, actually, I looked away after the race and I thought he's beaten. I thought it was an absolute 101 that he was beaten. I didn't even think it was betting. I thought Coulivanny Brave was up. But I tell you what he had to do when he missed the kick. Not only did he have to show exceptional early pace, he had to track a little bit. He had to
Yeah.
track a little bit, and that takes a little bit away from it and makes it harder to get to the front. He looked vulnerable going down the back. I thought he was in real trouble. So it was showed a great attitude to win that. I mean, as I said to you, if that was the dog that was in the first round, he'd been beaten. He'd probably finished fourth. But he's improved with each run in this competition. And even though the time 28:59 is nothing close to what he's capable of, I still think it was a huge run to actually hold on because I was absolutely stone cold certain he was beaten on the line.
Yeah. Oh, were you? Okay,
Mm.
yeah, I get you. Yeah, I get you. I'm not sure. I think I just left it to the judge, which would be sort of modus operandi. We'll move on. We wait to see where he'll go next. 550 would be pushing it, wouldn't it? Longer runs
No,
and
it's too,
corner
too.
suit. But I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
it could be sweating up the last bend for
Nah,
to the
from the
line.
third bend home, from the third bend home,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they'll have plenty of targets with them. Obviously, that was still a €10,000 stake. He was taking
Yeah.
on A1 rather than A2 down in Curaheen, but as you said, I don't know if it was much of an A1. I'm not sure if it was much of an A2 either. These are open race greyhounds running in
Yeah,
competitions.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
10 grand,
the
10
final,
grand. Mm.
yeah, the final of the Yvonne Barry 600 went to Balnabola Gym. Sadly, Coulivanny Otto was a withdrawal on Saturday morning. He's just had a small niggle after the semi-finals. He'll be back very shortly. You'd imagine a derby campaign is ready for him. But Balnabola Gym. Great to see this fellow. Brendan Murphy really has nursed him back. I know he lost all condition after the English Derby, and he really did have to work and work and work to get this fellow back to himself. He was down a pound the other night to just a meager 89 pounds, and when he raced up to the relatively small Magical Sapphire at 66 pounds, he did look like a racehorse up against a pony, and he took her on the outside, and once doing so, was always going to pull away. And he won by 2.5 lengths in 32.40. Glenlara Blue actually ran a remarkable race in second, and Ballyhooly TJ Tommy, like that run of Tono Charlie and holding him in the corner looks better and better. He came from out of the clouds. He finished like an
Yeah.
absolute a proverbial express train. I would imagine a step back to 550 or to 750 yards is very much on the agenda there.
No, it has to be, yeah. Ballinbola Jim, though, I just liked, for an 89 pound dog, I liked the way he accelerated at the first bend to get around the bend from a position that he might have been in serious trouble had he was getting a bit of a bump. I don't think too many dogs bumped 89 pound dogs and kind of knocked them off their stride too much. But I just thought the way he held himself and accelerated out the second bend, that was the win of the race for me. I thought it was a really, really, really good performance. And it's as you said, it's a great job by Brendan Murphy to get him to that level of performance again.
Yeah, but like it's funny when I first saw him running in Shelbourne Park and they got a good run in his card. I went, they'll move this fella on like he's a big 90 pounder, and isn't it lucky they didn't? You know what I mean? Like it's a 5 grand stake, but it's a it's a well-known 5 grand stake. Like this is a proper competition. Look at the dogs that have won it and raced in it over the years, and like, but the Bacchus Crystal win it last year, did she, or was it the year before? I'm not sure. Yeah, but like that
Sure,
sort of
so
level, or Druppy's Nice one won it last year, didn't she? Druppy's Nice one won it last year. And obviously, I think a Derby finalist in the past. But like this was a proper competition, and Ballinbola Jim, he's given Brendan any amount of fun. Like he's after losing the Ballinable Ed. He's now retired, gone to stud, and for him to still be winning good quality races on a Saturday night at Shelbourne Park, that's all the man wants. And he's got a real sort of stalwart here in Ballinabula Gym. And while you could run about 550 yards, it's the long run to the corner that really suits this fellow over 600 and 575. And you listen, the targets are set now. Like, you can run him in the Derby, but then there's a 575, 600 Derby final night. You've Winter Racing Festival. There's an early season 575, I'm sure, coming up. Like this fella, you have all manner of sport with him over the next couple of months. Moving on. And the Maiden Derby, before we get to the other 550, which well, featured a couple of very well-known names. But the Maiden Derby, Cazador was a good winner, a son of Malachy and Chilo, winning for Owen McKenna, the Owl Crater Syndicate. The Owl Crater, probably named after one of his joint owners, Damien Lonigan. He's getting a bit old looking, Tommy. But this Cazador showed terrific early speed up the inside. It was a race where there wasn't an awful lot of early dash, or pure early dash. Boyle Sports Blue diving in and giving Highview Bazaar a bump, and Unanimous Roxy and Hawkfield Abbey trying their best to hold on, but Cazador just showed much the best early speed into the opening corner. This is a fellow with some decent sprint form in terms of trials. So clearly there is a bit of early speed there. He's at 28.33 around Clonmel. This was only his sixth career start. He's a nice type. Obviously, he was 29.79, was a bit slower than the other two heat winners, but just a nice performance. Kusain Pickles, she didn't get the start. She found traffic on the corner. She found herself way out back in fifth spot off the second bend. The pace she showed to finish second was remarkable. She's just a hugely, hugely fast lady. She's going to be very hard to keep out of the frame in the final and going forward. Like this lady could easily be the Crafty Kokoro of this year's Derby.
Yeah, she showed remarkable pace. She took a tour of Shelbourne Park. When she came off the last bench, she had to check really wide, and she just effectively everything went wrong off a slow start. She showed pace in the bend and got bumped wide at the first bend. Just everything went wrong in the race. Ran a remarkable race. I mean, she take 40, take 50 spots off it, take as much as you like off it.
Yeah.
It's a huge effort. But Cazador showed nice, not flying up to the bend, but showed nice pace to be able to hold the line and get around in front. Nice performance, just because on the basis that it's a potential improver, like a potential improver. I don't know why weren't the sections working. Was it the weather or what was caused it the other night?
The third bend sectional clock on the front wasn't working. I don't know. I'd say that's just a little fuse or something. I think they're working on it, or they're getting someone to fix it soon. But it was working on the back. So I was getting updates, but I didn't get all the third bend sections. I didn't want to be annoying them in the racing office. They were up to their neck as it was. I might try and get them during the week, which is that, you do miss it when it's not there. So we'll be hoping it'll certainly be there for the start of the Derby. Hopefully it'll be there next Saturday night. Yeah, Kusain Pickles.
Sure,
Second,
if they
unanimous
have them,
Rox
if they have
McIntyre.
them, If they have them, they should be input, shouldn't they?
The first sectional. Beg your pardon.
Yeah, first
Oh,
sectional.
I'm not sure why they were there. I'm not sure why they weren't there. I know there was a different judge on Saturday night compared to previous weeks, so maybe that's the issue there because they are the ones that didn't put the results. Tarzan Masai won the second heat. Of course, there was only two to qualify. It's worth mentioning that. So there was a bit more jeopardy in these, but Tarzan Masai, he came away racing, but Omi missed absolutely rocketed out of the inside box. She moved sort of a little bit off, but Tarzan Masai, this fellow really is in a crest of a wave, Tommy. He's improving at a rapid rate of knots. His last four victories, 28-31 in Limerick, followed that a week later by a 27-79 run. Sorry, 27-97 run. And then came to Shelbourne Park, returned to Shelbourne Park, 29-55, really loving the long run to the corner. And the other evening does a 29-52. Mighty impressive. Clearly a greyhound that is just after finding himself. I think Jeff Parnaby took his time with this dog. I think he knew what he had from the early stages. Showed loads of ability in his early days. 354 was the section of that race, whether it was Obi Mist or him. That's not fast, but he flew into the opening corner. That's the strength of him is the last 50 yards into the bend. Just a really nice type, Tommy. Very fluent mover. I think he's a big future.
He does, yeah. Nice big dog. I was quite impressed with him. Again, it was, you're more impressed from the entrance into the first bend from there, from what he did from there. Yeah, I don't know what to make of sectionals at the moment. Maybe the track, maybe is it? I don't know what way the track is even racing, to be honest. But what was your feel for it?
It's not as fast as it was, which
Mm,
which we'll get to in the next heat means that the last heat winner has to be even vaulted higher than what it was. But it's definitely not as running as fast as it was a couple of, certainly a month ago. Anyway, it was absolutely flying there for a few weeks. But I thought it was running okay, but it's still winter and wet and miserable, and like it's 29-52 is a hell of a run. Any night of the week. He's a nice dog, no question about it. The first line sectional, that seems to have gone back 10 spots over the last 3 years for some reason. Just, the days of dogs doing 330s just seem to be evaporated. You know what I mean? Now at 340 odd is a decent run now. Omi Mist was second. She's beaten 5.5 lengths, but like, there's nothing to be worried about there. Like Tarzan Massa got loose, and he's going to beat a lot of dogs 5.5 lengths. But the last heat winner was the one that sort of got people talking. I spoke to a couple of very shrewd men before racing, and they stopped on the way up to Shelbourne Park and backed this fellow both for the Derby and for this maiden Derby. He was 5-2 in a place. Bombay Pat. They thought he was an absolute certainty on Saturday night, and he missed the kick, and he absolutely ragged them. Like Tommy, this was nothing short of breathtaking into the opening corner, and the way he just left them standing 29-21. He went from, I think he was on a 33-1 chance for Derby. He's now, I think, 16-1 best, and it's hard to disagree.
uh, Goes to back to the thing you said earlier on, about when we talked about dog in Cork,
Dynamic
the
firm.
swords on.
Sorts of.
There was a bit of a speed wobble on the bed, wasn't there?
It was, yeah. Yeah. He was moving.
Doing
He
29,
was moving.
21, there was.
He was moving that fast. Yeah.
Yeah, like the sectional limit was 354, which is relatively pedestrian. But then again, I wouldn't like to say that's all they're capable of in that race. I think they're a bit better than that. But 354 suggests is not there's no early pace in the race. But he walked out and absolutely flew to the bend. I don't know what to make of him in terms of what his ceiling might be, because he's only had something like 6 runs or so. Is that all? Maybe 7 runs.
He's had 6 real runs. He actually stood in boxes on his debut at Kilkenny.
Yeah.
Didn't come out, and it's down as did not start, did not finish. I assumed he turned in traps. He didn't. He just stood in boxes. He was obviously that green and just new surroundings. Didn't know what he was doing, but he went to Curaheen Park then, and they ran him in a sprint. Found traffic, and then it was his second proper start rather than his third start as it is officially, where
Mm.
he took it up at the third bend, won 11 lengths in 27.96. Like if you don't stand up after that and consider him, you're doing things wrong. He then won his semi-final of that competition 28-36 before being beaten by Silver Hill Frey in the final at 28-11. But again, he probably isn't a Curraheen Park dog. He looks every inch of Shelbourne Park 550-yard dog.
He broke that night. When he was in trap four, when he beat myself at Frey, he broke that night the way he did the other night. But like he was doing it in Curraheen Park, over 525. in the middle of greyhounds. I mean,
Yeah.
with inexperience in the whole lot, you couldn't recover from that. Like, it was still a huge effort, actually a huge effort in defeat, to be honest.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know where his ceiling is. If you think that, like, we'll be talking about Bacchus Diamond in a minute, that we all assume might be the best that Graham has. He's better than this lad. He's some dog. He's some dog.
it, it, it happens sometimes, you think you have a world beater and then all of a sudden you realize there's one in the kennel that can rival him. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's very fast. And I tend to agree with you. I don't know where his ceiling is. Um, if he finds his trapping boots, he has everything.
like,
Like he has
but like
everything. The only thing he's missing is that first three strides.
look, that'll probably cost him a derby. You know what I mean, or cost him a chance of a derby. Something like that can, because it's going to be minor fractions, tiny fractions of things that are going to cost you long term. And maybe he'll get it because he is so inexperienced. But, like, I mean, you've got to take something off the run. Apart from the fact that he was just slowly away, you can't really factor that in because maybe he'll be slowly away every time. But, like, the speed wobble at the first bend is definitely cost him time and momentum. Like, what clock was he going to do had he not done that? Like, take another length at least, I think, because you're kind of right yourself for a few strides before you get straightened up again. Um, don't know. I mean, there's nothing you can say, but you're deeply impressed by the performance. You have to be.
He is probably the Greyhound, and it's very early days. Like he's only had a handful of races. He missed the kick the other evening, as we said, and he may well always give them a yard or two at traps. But if the track was running like it was a month ago, like he could potentially be the one dog that's worrying Pastana's track record.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Like
I
it's it's
talked, I
it's it's
talked,
22 spots faster,
I
Pastana's
talked to
record.
somebody. I talked to somebody the other night in Curaheen Park, and we were just chatting about the speed of the tracks and that sort of stuff. And we are just saying, like, sometimes a dog is doing the clock, and the track is like it was a month ago or whatever, and it's on their card for the rest of their careers, and it's kind of holding them back almost because they're really not capable of that sort of time, and it's kind of it has a knock on effect. I don't think they need to worry about that, Bombay Pat. I
I
don't think
don't
they do.
I don't think he's ruined
I
his
don't think
grade,
so.
Tommy. I don't think he's
No,
outgraded
I
himself,
don't
shall
think
we
so. I
say?
don't think they need to worry about it.
Yeah,
Sometimes like dogs will be dragged to fast times as well, in behind
yeah,
other dogs and the whole lot. But
yeah.
no, oh my god,
He dragged himself to a fast time the other evening. You know what I mean?
it
Um,
does. Like, without that run on the card. Just say that the race that there had been 10 races on Shelbourne Park on Saturday night, right? That one didn't exist. I still think that the race we're going to be talking about a few minutes ago highlighted the fact that it's preposterous that a dog is 11-2 to win the Derby at this stage.
5-1 now.
Sorry about that. 5-1. Take another half point off.
Anyway, let's get into it. Yeah, Bombay
Right.
Pat. He will race from trap four in the final, actually. He was it's the sole middle seed.
That'll be interesting.
It's interesting. I would say that those that took the 5-2 prior to Saturday night, wishing, God, I wish he was a wide seed and we take our chance that he gets four up, that he
Yeah.
gets five or six. Kusain Pickles is in five. Like, she's not going to edge in. Born to Perform is in three. She did move off from trap one, but she won't move off from three, you'd assume. So if he does trap on terms, it's probably all over. But Tarzan Masai and Kusain Pickles are more than capable of playing a part, and Cazador will be flying up the inside. So it's an interesting little contest. Bombay Pat currently available around the even money mark. That seems about fair, given the fact that we're not quite absolutely fully invested in terms of we don't know where he's going to end up in his ceiling and what he's going to do in the first five strides. If we thought he was going to trap on terms, I'd say 2 to 5 would be sort of around where we'd be. As it is, he's even money.
It's still a good race. There's good greyhounds in there, and potential
There's
improvers, of course. We have to accept
absolutely,
that as well. So,
absolutely, and it is worth pointing out that Kusain Pickles picked him up the previous week. She picked him
yeah,
up.
that was his
She
first
came
one.
from
Now
behind.
that was his
And
first one. But, like,
there
she
was there
showed
was there was a suspicion. Hegarty mentioned it to me. He said, I don't know if it was a full cramp. He says, but I think there was a slight tightening of the
in
limbs. So
first
yeah, it'd
run
be
back in
interesting.
the whole lot. But I just like, if were he to lead by a length at the first bend, Kusam Pickles in second place, who are you backing?
I think he'd probably increase the lead to halfway, and then
I think
she's
he
coming at
probably
him. I think he
I think he
wins.
probably would
Yeah,
too. I
yeah,
think that'll be my
if he leads a length at the first corner, it means he's doing the 29-20. You're not coming from behind 29
it's
20.
yeah, it's look at I yeah, it's yeah. She's incredibly fast now.
Yeah, just want to mention a couple of other races on the card. A dog called Bocco's Diamond won a cheap sandwiches, and that's it. Uh,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Time Greyhound Nutrition Open 550. The draw for this went up, and it was actually Damien Lonigan that rang me and goes, "Can't believe they're going to meet before the Derby." I said, "They
I was
mightn't.
disgusted.
They mightn't. They
Disgusted I
mightn't,
was.
Damien. They mightn't."
Yeah,
And as
yeah.
it happens, they won't. They won't. Callaway, Kinnegar, and Bocco's Diamond were drawn in opposite semi-finals. Callaway Kinnegar in his first race over 550 yards, it has to be said, first time in those boxes. He was in a decent position at the opening corner, but all of a sudden, just the last 5 strides into the bend, perhaps we're seeing where there will be that slight weakness going forward. Also didn't help that it was Antigua Hawk edging inwards from trap three, who weighs 84 pounds and looks every inch of it, and he's mad for the fence. He does have terrific early speed. He just cut the corner and all of a sudden was race over. Now, it has to be said that at this point, Cheap Sandwiches was already gone to the front on the outside. 2 runs over 550 yards in Shelbourne Park, and he has absolutely relished the extra 25 yards, Tommy. This is not a dog we're going to sleep on, Cheap Sandwiches. He's going to have his draw most nights. He's a true wide seed, it seems, over the 550-yard trip. 29.63 last time. I was very impressed with him that night, and even more impressed on Saturday night, 29.34. Let us not sleep on this fellow, owned by the wonderfully, wonderfully named Bark Wahlberg Syndicate. Cheap Sandwiches. With a name like that, you knew the syndicate name was going to be pretty decent too. He's a nice dog, this.
I wish we were laughing about him about what a great name he was. I think he ran in the Lee
Lee
Strand. Did he
Strand.
run
He
Lee
was, yeah.
Strand? Yeah, we were chatting
He
about
led.
that.
I think he led in the Lee Strand. He was picked up by Dashing Toro, another very fast greyhound. That
Yeah.
Lee Strand was absolutely stacked this year. Stacked.
And after
An
that, he came
an
to
A3 competition.
an A3 competition was right, and Dashing for the serious dog.
I'm
And then he
noticing a theme.
but then the poor soul came to went to Shell or to Curaheen Park for the David Fitzgibbon Memorial, and he came up against Broadstrand Sid. Like I mean, honest to God, I mean, you couldn't make it up for the poor greyhound. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's about time he got a chance to show what he's capable of. He definitely improving. And look, Graham didn't have him at the start. Graham Holland had him, got him along the way, and has taken his time with him. And as he said the other night, he's just a different dog on the bunny. He's capable of huge runs. That's a massive, massive effort. He's after leading twice and winning deeply impressively. No reason to say that he won't continue to lead at that level. It'll get a bit tougher, obviously, as time goes on, and actually get tougher next weekend. But yeah, really good performance. 29.34, not to be laughed at. Callaway Kinnegar, um,
I'm not sure.
like this is
I'm not sure he actually wants to be in one. Funnily enough, I think he probably tracks that bit better from two or three. I think it sort
well,
of keeps him awake into the opening hours. It's the first time where he hasn't looked absolutely 100% intelligent. It was just the one night where he made a mistake
uh,
that was a bit novice.
God, I don't think I blame him. I don't think I blame the dog. I think it was incredibly tight. Watch it again to the bench. It was, and even to make things worse, apart from the fact that you got Antigua Hawk, who's a big dog, 84-pound dog, who wants to get in on the rails the first bend. Short Grip happened to come across late. Now I know she's
Yeah.
like 69 pounder. It was a bit late, and it didn't cause the first problem for Callaway Kinnegar. It but Short Grip did come across. It was incredibly tight along the inside. Now you said it in commentary, and I was feeling the same thing watching the race, that he was perfectly positioned. And
Mm.
had he been able to hold his position and give a bump off to whatever is behind, you're saying, well, he's ideally prime now. He's probably turning in second place or a share of second place or very close to it, and we'd see what he was made of. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I just wonder. I, I spoke to somebody about this the other night, and they said, "Oh, he missed the kick," and I was like, "But did he miss the kick? I don't think he
No, he
did.
did. No, he didn't miss the kick. No,
Don't
he
think he
didn't miss the
did.
kick.
I
No,
don't
no, no.
think he did at all." And that's where, like he's incredibly fast. And I did ask Owen there a few weeks ago. I said it when he was down at the Laurels. I asked him, could he find maybe a length of early pace? Now look at Owen didn't have him fully tuned for this competition. This is again a prep for the Derby, and you'd have all your faith in Owen to have him 100% for the start of the Derby. But um but he has to find that length of early pace. I think that's what we learned the other night. He has to find
Yeah.
that length, or else he's going to need to turn second, if you know what I mean. And
We're
you know
we're also in a situation where he may not have a race that hot until the Derby semi-final again.
that's possible.
It was crazy hot, and that's why it was so impressive by the winner. Like the winner, there was nothing lucky about the winner's success. Like he
But
breaks on terms. He absolutely flew into the opening corner. Like you've got Short Grip, Juvenile Derby runner up. She can go up fast. Antigua Hawk, we saw what he's capable of in the early rounds of the English Derby. Oh, Pat Buckley thinks the world of this greyhound. Callaway Kinnegar is obviously was Derby favourite at one point a couple of weeks ago. Now he's clear second favourite. Dark Dilemma, dog who's been absolutely motoring to the bend, who's in the form of his life, and who we shouldn't sleep on either. He ran a remarkable race in second spot. Apart from which, Callaway Kinnegar found that traffic. If Antigua Hawk had, let's say, another 5 races to his name, he may well not have cut in like he did. He's showing the fact that, oh, I'm a big old dog. I can do what I want, and I want that fence. Even off the last bend, he tried to. He looked like he was going around the outside, but he tried to cut in on Short Grip and found her there, and he then had to straighten up again. If he's had 5 more races, he's not cutting in as much as he does in the corner. And Callaway could easily have emerged in second spot. Now, he still may struggle to pick up Cheap Sandwiches, who absolutely flew, but we know exactly what he's capable of. But the fact that Stripe Sparky then ran into him, like that's just one of those, that was a freakish occurrence because he may well still have got involved and qualified. When you look where Dark Dilemma came from to qualify, Short Grip was obviously short and run. Antigua Hawk certainly wasn't wound up fully. But like, this is a race we could be looking back on in a few weeks' time going, God, that was a hot contest. Like, it'd be no surprise to me if four or five of these were in the semi-finals of Derby.
Well, if Antigua Hawk had 5 more runs in, Antigua Hawk would probably lead around.
Yeah.
Antigua Hawk, seriously fast dog. Seriously fast dog. And a dog that can have an impact in the Derby in a big way.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, it's a cracking race. Look at it's only because we're only nitpicking because we've put him on this pedestal of being this potential machine, right? And he still is. So you're only nitpicking to find out especially when he's in single figures to win a Derby, which is six rounds against the top greyhounds that we can produce in the country, and he's single figure for that, and you're kind of going, well, he's got to find that extra length. Look, he's going to be a better dog in the Derby. I have no doubt about that. I wouldn't have lost any faith in him, but you have to be realistic as well. Like, if you had no bet on him at this stage of the Derby, would you back him now at the price he is?
I would not be backing him at single figures. There's no question. My argument in recent years is you got to find a progressive dog. So that's him, right? He ticks that box. You got to find one that has the engine that's capable of doing the runs. Yes, he fills that box. I've often gone, I'd like a dog that's seated because they're more likely to get a draw. That's not him. And I need something with serious early speed. Not 550 or not 525 flash start, get around the corner. I mean proper early speed. Like the dogs that win the Derby nowadays are dogs that can win a sprint. And Bacco's Diamond could win a sprint.
But we have pointed out that this year is going to be different. It's a later Derby. It's going to be tougher track. It's going to be, regardless of how well the track is maintained, it's going to be difficult on some nights. It's going to take a bit of getting. It's going to leave a little bit of a mark where the trainer will be saying, "I can't gallop him this week," or "I can't do this one this week," because he just seemed to come away tired after last weekend. There's going to be a bit of that. There's going to be a lot of like training greyhounds is difficult enough, but there's going to be even more management in it this year than ever there was.
Yeah. There was also a second semi-final. Wasn't too bad. Bacco's Diamond beat Seven Beach by a head. We asked the question earlier in the year, where's Jennifer going to find her third sort of Derby winner?
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. Seven Beach is absolutely riding the crest of wave at the moment. He's a proper greyhound. He is a proper greyhound. And while Bacco's Diamond is going 2 lengths slower than his kennel companion, Cheap Sandwiches, I think my appreciation for the dog grew on Saturday night. It's not too often he's going to find a dog as fast as Seven Beach, out trapping him and leading him into the opening corner. For him to even be challenging on level terms at the first bend, and then to allow the other dog get in front of him, give him the inside line, to get back to challenge him, and then for him to go again with the inside line, and then to come back and beat him ahead. I actually thought it was good. I actually wrote in the report a short head. I thought this was firstly a remarkable greyhound race, but I also thought it was a brilliant performance by first, second, and even keep going down. I thought Anna Bailey ran a big race. Thought Chestnut King absolutely flew. You could run him over further in the very near future. I'm sure he'll be up in Derby final night for a trip over further. But listen, Bacco's Diamond is 5-1 favourite for the Derby. Would you back Bacco's Diamond at 5-1 or Cheap Sandwiches at 25-1? Listen, 5-1 is very short for me. It's very short for me. But would I have a different Derby favourite? No. But I'd certainly have a bigger price. That's all I'm saying. But Bacco's Diamond is an exceptional talent, and I thought he showed another string to his bow on Saturday.
He showed another string to his bow because he showed he doesn't shirk the issue. We knew that of Seven Beach, that he wouldn't shirk the issue, and we knew when he was on the inside of Bacco's Diamond. I actually thought he might beat him, to be honest about it. And that's what you'd love about it. And yes, if you want to really nitpick, straight after the line, they're both passed fairly quickly, or certainly the winner is passed fairly quickly after the
But
line.
they
If you
but
want
they
to
are
be
after absolutely just going at each other for like
no,
550
this
yards. It was
this is
just unbelievable.
this is nitpicking of the highest of
Yeah.
the end to the nth degree. Um, love the fact he didn't shirk the issue. Love the fact that I actually don't think either of them ran the third bend really well.
Mm.
I don't think they did. I thought just watching it live, this wasn't. I don't think it's something that you'll ever get on replay, or it's not something you'll ever get on second viewing. You have to make the. I find from my point of view and from my punting in greyhounds down.
First impressions last. The first
Yeah,
impressions
well,
are
in
often the
my
right impression. Yeah.
in my life hunting greyhounds or whatever, I'd always take. I love something to hit me during a race that'll say that. Just note that. I often used to say to lads, if you're betting, right, come with an expectation of what's going to happen in the race, and if something doesn't happen, find out why it didn't, why it happened, something different happened to what you expected. That's how you learn about your greyhound, whether it's this or that. So I just felt neither of them, maybe Bach was more than Seven Beach, but neither of them flew the third bend, and they were in close proximity. And there's many reasons why it might have happened, and it probably, to my mind, is probably why the clock is 29:48, not 29:28. But I love the fact that neither of them shirked the issue. And Bacchus Diamond, if you're going to be Derby favourite, you kind of have to come out on top in a bucket like that. So he showed he stays the 550. He's going to get better, and Seven Beach has already turned into a professional. And just because we've been seeing him for a number of weeks running it, doesn't mean he can't win a derby either. Seven Beach can win a derby.
Absolutely, he can.
He,
Absolutely, he can.
the,
He's arguably in better form going into this derby than Born Warrior and the other Kobe were in the last 2 years.
and you know what he is? He's a rock solid dog, is what he is. Really, really like him. I don't know. I just like what he developed into. I just what you said at the start is exactly right. What I was feeling on Saturday night watch this is a proper greyhound race.
Yeah,
I think like
it was just a joy.
you
It was a joy.
you kind of you're kind of enjoying the whole lot about it. You were in commentary and you're saying at the third bend, I got the impression that you were kind of saying what I was thinking. The third bend, you were kind of thinking that maybe Seven Beach was just forging ahead. He seemed to get
Yeah.
a head out of him by being on the inside, and you just thought maybe he'll forge on now in half length to length. That's probably the way you were thinking. It's the way I was thinking as well.
I
And
was
then
actually
Bucko,
I was smiling in commentary, which isn't an easy thing to do.
yeah, and I was just enjoying the race, and I say I backed Bacchus Diamond to win the Derby back a while back, and if he doesn't win it, so it's not going to be a materially huge effect in my life. But I tell you what, if we get races like that throughout the Derby with him and Seven Beach and whoever, Anna Bailey ran a super race. Anna Bailey's been around since I was a child, and is still running super races like that was a joyous race, absolutely joyous race.
And we're left with a final with one inside seed.
Yeah.
Where's that come from? Bacco's
Yeah.
Diamond is in trap two, Seven Beaches in trap three. I'm interested, I'm intrigued to see Bacco's Diamond racing from trap two. I wouldn't be surprised if they ran him as a wide seed in the Derby, though.
Um,
I think we're going to go back to the Lenz and Bacco sort of mold, and he reminds me an awful lot of Lenz and Bacco in the early Lenz and Bacco. The Lenz and Bacco that won his Derby that year. He came in as a really precocious young talent, like really bright future, very likely race, much like Bacco's Diamond going into it, showing terrific early speed during that Derby. Used to fly up the outside and then cut the corner like Bacco's Diamond is doing. The one or two nights that he was really put up to it, he really dug in like Bacco's Diamond did the other evening. I just think there's so many similarities. Obviously, the same sets of connections. I just think there's a remarkable similarity there. He's racing from trap two on Saturday night. Um, it's a cracking little contest. Cheap Sandwiches
it's
is
it's
drawn in six. That's fascinating. Like I don't think we should ignore the run of Cheap Sandwiches. I really don't. I think in other years he's now 25-1. In other years, this dog could be 12-1 to win a derby.
I look at it, what will be most interesting about Saturday night is what Bacchus Diamond does early. Does he move off a bit? Does Seven Beach kind of is he forcing Seven Beach out, or will he miss it from being drawn in too far, or what will happen?
Yeah.
There's loads of things. Look at it; it's not going to be winning or losing at the Derby, but if we're looking here thinking having doubts about this final, and I know it's a really good race, um, you have to say, can he really be 5-1 to win a Derby? He can't be that short. That's just too short. But
Listen to the top five in the betting. Like Bacco's Diamond, Callaway Kinnegar, The Laddie Da, March on Freddy, Bombay Pat, and then down underneath them, like Cheap Sandwiches 25-1, Seven Beach 25-1. Like, I'm not sure either of them are 25-1 chance. You know what I
well,
mean?
well
But
Seven beat
but percentages, sort of nearly pushed them out that far. But like either of them could win a derby.
Seven Beach is tremendously professional. He very seldom misses the kick. Does everything right as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Bacchus Diamond beat him well over 525 the previous meeting, but like 550, that run up suits him as well. I think
Yeah.
he's like 25 to 1 too big. I think the March on Freddie dog is interesting. I mean, his 3 runs in Ireland, you wouldn't say he was going to win a derby, but he's obviously he's has a track record in England and has shown massive early pace. And
Well,
um
they're talking about March on Freddie like we're talking about Bacchus Diamond, you know, and they are litter brothers, and there's obviously very similar qualities. I sort of nearly called them out on the platform that used to be known as Twitter and said, they were saying he's very lightly racing the quote, and I don't know if Ireland's too soon, blah blah blah. And I called him out and said he's got more races than Diamond, he's got more races than Kinnegar, he's had more races now than five of the last six Derby winners had in the first round of the Derby. And I got a text that night from George Watson, the owner, going, say nothing, but we're coming. I was like, lovely, thanks very much. And I got another text from another man who had seen him in the flesh in Nottingham and said, do you see that dog? He said he's ready to take on the world. He says he's built like a bull. He's built like a tank. He said there's not an ounce of flesh in this dog. He's an absolute ball of muscle. He said this is a proper greyhound. So he looks like a Shelbourne Park greyhound. Whether he does perform to his very, very best at Shelbourne Park, isn't it wonderful that they're coming over? And I really
oh,
hope we roll out the red carpet. We want the very best from the UK to come over. Bring over Troopy's Clue. Bring over King Memphis. We'll welcome you. And like, if Shelbourne Park doesn't suit your greyhound, how many dogs does it not suit? Especially the
yeah,
very best.
yeah. I 100% agree with you. I'm always saying this that I would love to see more greyhounds travel over from the UK for
Yeah,
the Derby and for big competitions in general. But for the Derby, obviously, there's a financial reason, and that maybe they might come for some of the lesser competitions. But for the Derby, come over and have a go. I
yeah.
mean, we've had English UK based winners of the Derby in the past, and we'll have them again hopefully at some stage, because it's important that they come over and that they can be competitive to encourage them to come over again next year and the year after and whatever else.
Yeah, Tommy, it's we're entering into an unbelievable period of racing action. We have the Laurels final on Saturday night, one of the great occasions of World Greyhound Racing, the Laurels final down at Curaheen Park. If you can get down there, please do your best. Do your best. If not, tune in to Virgin Media. But I promise you, you will enjoy the experience far greater if you're on the stands, shouting home a good winner of the Laurels on Saturday night. The Derby is then coming straight after it. Lots to look forward to. It's going to be an unbelievable few weeks. And as I've said about Shelbourne Park, it really is worth the visit. And spend some time, get there early, spend some time in the museum. I promise you, I entered the museum and a lump in my throat. The history of the sport is there. It's absolutely unbelievable, Tommy. Nostalgia is a very powerful thing. It hit me right in the in the sore parts on Saturday night, or on Friday night or Thursday night, should I say, when I entered there first. They have a little soundtrack going overall of famous Derby successes over the years, going back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all the way through to last year's Derby winner. I didn't want to hear myself, but I heard other very famous men commentating on finals, and it really has hit home. The work that was done in the museum in particular it's remarkable, Tommy. Get up there, spend 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I bumped into Pat Guilfoyle, Tomas O'Keefe, Mary Gilbert, Sean Burke, and they were all just staring around the place, and you could see that the memories were sort of just flooding around them. It's well worth the visit.
We're doing good things in the sport at the moment. All we need now is a dedicated Irish channel, and then we'll be we'll be complete. Somewhere we can watch these races, because I tell you what, if I have to sort of say this idea, when you're in the likes of Curaheen Park and this whatever that pick six thing is called nowadays, I mean, you're seeing one race from Tralee and one from a random track up the country. Like, I mean, that is, to me, is absolutely and utterly pointless. You need to cater properly for who's in there and what they want to see.
They do
Effectively, they
favor
want to
they
see.
do favor the intertrack track though, don't they? Like they do favor Shelbourne Park. If there's another race from Tralee, they don't move it for the Shelbourne
No,
Park
it
race.
depends. I think it's all down to that pick 60 type thing, whatever that joke is, whatever, the one where it's over the different tracks and all that. Does that still exist? I think it does.
It does, of course. There's 5 grand there every weekend, Tommy. You want to get involved?
Not a hope. I mean, it's hard enough to pick winners in your local track without looking at greyhounds you've never heard of in a track that you don't know. I mean, nothing appeals less to me now. I'll be honest about it.
Right. Well, Tommy's finishing on a high note. That's it, though, from Talking Dogs on this Monday. We have a look. We can look forward to the Barwon Racing Irish Laurels at Curaheen Park on Saturday night. We've got, television coverage, of course, but please make sure you can get there. Also, an unbelievable card at Shelbourne Park with all roads after the Laurels leading to the Derby and then the Winter Racing Festival. It's going to be a very, very exciting end of the year. We've spoken an awful lot this morning. I hope you've watched this in one or maybe two, maybe even three sittings, but hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. Our thanks again to Kieran Burke of Barwon Racing for his contributions earlier on, and of course the Exile Dub. But that's it from us this evening. We'll see you next time. Good luck, good evening. God bless.